Okay. So a lot of y'all always ask how I feel about certain things that is in the news, especially when it comes to like child abductions or like the Lori Daybell case and stuff like that. And I don't always talk about it, but I want to talk about this one because this one literally is in my backyard. And I want to bring up some stuff that I've noticed. Now, you're going to hear my dog munching in the background. Just ignore him. Bless his heart. Every time I try to record something, he just starts in. So what I first want to say is that I've watched this family over the last couple of weeks be interviewed. I've watched how they've responded. My hair looks atrocious. It is evident that everything I'm going to say is alleged or just my opinion or belief on the matter. Nothing I say is hardcore fact or can be taken to the bank. This is just my inferences upon the evidence that I'm seeing and how I use it and how my body responds to it and what my brain thinks is going on when I see this behavior from these people. The one thing I will say is that I'm going to watch the mother here, but we'll talk about the father later, but I think it's evident in the mother's face. I believe that they have discussed substance abuse in her past, and I believe a couple of people have talked about her face, and some of, like, her forehead does not move. It's very, the emotional billboard does not work on her at all, it seems. And there's also some other possible nerve damage, so there could be a history of Bell's palsy or something in her past, or it could be simply that she is currently being medicated due to her anxiety and stress levels right now, which is completely understandable if you've had a child disappear. I would expect you to probably need some medication help because I couldn't imagine the emotions and the trauma that would go on with that. So just wanted to broach those two topics. But of course, again, anything I say is just my opinion, my beliefs, and how I'm feeling this out. And, this is just me. And I could be completely wrong, so take it with a grain of salt and go on. But if you're interested in how I am processing this, here we go.
By herself or off this yard by her swing. I feel in my heart that somebody has came up here and took her, has lured her away from here.
The only time her eyes moved when she said lured her away from here, lured. So that was a tense thing for her to say. That was something that brought out some emotion. But she also cut her eyes when she said they lured her away. Almost like she is looking at a specific spot or remembering a specific detail that occurred at a specific place that she can visually see. So unless there was somebody out there that just walked and took her eye line at that point, took her attention at that point, I don't know why else she would have cut her eyes unless there was an emotional attachment to something she's saying or remembering. That kind of struck me off guard. But you also see the way her mouth forms. It's very hard to watch for certain cues. Get out of that. It's very hard to watch for certain cues because the way her mouth forms, you don't know if there is nerve damage or if it is just the way that she is speaking. Because she's been in a highly emotional state and the very few times she has spoken, it has been very consistent to this manner. I don't know. So there are a lot of judgment calls that I would normally make in my mind that I can't make it this time.
Me and my mother and her were planting flowers.
Where are the flowers? I want to see the flowers.
And we went in after we got done washing our hands, and she got a piece of candy from Grandma, and she wanted to go back over and see her brothers. And I said, okay, and I walked her all the way over to the porch, and I watched her walk into the kitchen where the boys were watching TV. And I told the boys, I said, watch Summer, I'll be back.
Okay, and so we pretty much all know the story. She said, watch your sister, I'll be back. She came back very shortly, called for her, there was no response, which she said she usually replies, and that's when they determined she was gone. Now I'm going to cut away and talk about the father. And I can only pull up one clip with this stupid software application, so let's talk about the dad. I've watched him speak multiple times. He has pretty much taken the lead in the speaking in this regard. And I know that he has a history. I know that his son is a sex offender. I know that they have lived through multiple states, and they came to Tennessee after a family member died and left them land. Now, I don't harbor any ill will to anyone that moves to start over or moves to, get land that somebody left them and start over. That's great. That's fine. There's no problem with that. But the bouncing around does sometimes show that problems tend to be left as opposed to resolved. So perhaps he is now in a situation where he's having to deal with a problem and he doesn't know how to do it, and so he's very tense and very anxious. Or perhaps this is a norm for him, because I know that there has been a previous family member go missing as well. So there are two polar opposite sides of this that could both be tethering to his behavior and his emotions. One thing I will say is, when the father speaks, he does become more animated, and it's not his body talking with him, it's tension, animation, and he'll often use his mouth before he speaks as though he's buying time to think. Or he will blink heartily and let you know that he's agitated when speaking about a certain subject. But the one thing that I personally have found most inconsistent, in my opinion, is that he deflects a lot. So when there is a time where he's speaking where it should go to a very highly emotional behavior, or an emotional tale where he should be getting emotional and show a little bit of his grief and how much he's upset, he will often deflect to something that does not fit in the situation, in the discussion. And and I'm all about religion and faith, and having that be a comfort to people, especially during times like this. But during one conversation, I noticed that he interjected to start talking about his religion, and which, it's normal for people to say, my religion has been a comfort, my faith has been a comfort, God has been a comfort. That's normal. But he deflected all the way to saying that they believe in the resurrection, and went into some very specific religious detail about the type of religion they follow, which was somewhat inconsistent and unnecessary. I felt was a deflection onto that topic that was not necessary. And so I was like, what are you not talking about because you're talking about that? What was lined up to bat in your brain, and then you went to that pinch hitter as more of a comfort thing? Because what he was saying, yes, he was saying it, and yes, it's part of his religion, but you could also tell when he was speaking about it that it was something he was not used to speaking about, and he kind of stumbled over some of it and didn't quite know how to portray the emotion with the subject matter, make it blend. I felt that was very strange, very strange. Now, do I get like just huge deception from them or guilt? No, I don't. But I get an inconsistent feeling in every presentment and every discussion they do, and I feel very bad for them, because they're obviously in this horrible time in life where this tragedy has occurred, and they're trying to go through it and raise their other children. But at the same time, I'm seeing these little red flags that concern me, like when the mother has not broken out into any grief momentum or any grief scenarios. She's not just turned into a bubbling, sobbing mess like most people would. The closest I've seen her actually present a lot of grief is when she was saying how her other children wake up and cry for their sister, and it's so hard to see her other children cry. For me, that statement was so telling of, I can show this emotion about my other children, I can show this grief and this upset about this topic, but I shut down to this other one. Well, why are we shutting down to this other one? Is it because you've lost hope, you have a sense of hopelessness, and to save yourself the emotional disparity, you're not allowing yourself to go there? Hang on. Cuzzy! Stop it! Sorry, puppy training. Or is it because you don't want to go there because you're afraid you won't be able to bring yourself back from the bubbling mess you're going to turn into? Or is it that you genuinely do not have those emotions to share, which would further indicate an issue? Jury's still out, and I don't know. This has been one of the strangest abductions I've ever seen. There have been so many Amber Alerts in the state of Tennessee in the last 2 weeks. My phone has been crazy. And it has made me go, what in the world is going on? Sadly, but honestly, East Tennessee is a hub of child abductions. When I was in law enforcement, they trained us about this, because you could be in so many different states. There were so many rural roads. There were so many different creative avenues to get where you were going. It was just an easy place to traffic children from. And so it was something that we were trained on, and we had to keep a very aware eye on. And, so parents in this area, have also been made aware of this is a hub area for abductions and trafficking because of its rural nature, the multiple roads, this easy state access that's, there are 5 or 6 states just in a blink of an eye. It's something that we have to really, really, really monitor. But I don't see the consistency in her emotional status when she was talking about, she became very emotional about talking about her other children crying, and that was so hard to watch. And when she talks about this child that is missing that's possibly been abducted or worse, it's blank. It goes back to a very numb state. That concerns me. And it could be from trauma and exhaustion and medication. It could be from a number of things. But for me, as my opinion, it concerns me. Now a lot of you often ask me, you tell us what you pick up on and tell us, but how do you feel? I will just be point blank honest. When I actually sit down and I just feel about all I've seen and all I've taken in, and the certain body gestures and the way they've responded to questions, my feeling, which is just my opinion and my belief and what I've drawn from everything that's been presented, I feel that the father has more information about what's going on than he's sharing. I believe the verbiage that he uses tells me that he knows what has occurred, whether it was something that he was forced into, something that occurred that he knew he couldn't happen, a bad deal that went down that he was forced into, or I just feel that he knows more than he is saying. And sometimes I feel like he needs to say it, or he wants to say it, but he doesn't believe that anyone would believe him, or he doesn't believe that the truth would actually be accepted and that it would possibly do more harm than good. Now, I don't know if that's to him or his family or everyone. I don't know. But that's kind of what I get. He knows more. I think he blatantly, honestly knows what occurred. But for some reason, it seems more safe to hold it than to release it and help. And that concerns me. And it makes me wonder what may have occurred. That's just how I feel about it. That's just what I'm picking up from it. But I believe he knows more than what he's saying. And that whatever he has to say, he's choosing not to say because he believes that saying it will do more harm than good, or would absolutely not be believed. Or saying it and it not being believed would make him a suspect more than he is right now. That's what I'm picking up on. And that poor mom, I feel like she's just stuck not knowing what has occurred or what to believe. All she knows is that the child is not there. And she's not processing it very well. She's not handling it very well. She's not handling her emotions very well. They're not very consistent or congruent to the, what's going on. But there are reasons for all of that, so I can't focus on that too much. But it's like she's just going along with it because she's lost all hope, or she feels that she has no ability to change what's going on and to create a different ending, to find hope and turn this thing around. It's like she just has no capacity to do that. And it's either from the knowledge of what has occurred, or the knowledge that she can't change it, or the knowledge that she knows whatever has occurred is something she cannot fix. It's very strange. This is a very strange scenario. The emotions, the emotional incongruency, the red flags in behavior, some of the words they've chosen to say, and the way they respond to interviewers and the cops and the search itself, and then the family history, and the way they've handled and spoken about that. I feel as though there's something that has occurred, that they know what occurred, but rather than cross that bridge due to whatever fear or concern or whatever, they would just rather feel hopeless and accept the loss of their child. And that's, in my brain, what keeps vibing with me, and that, you know, I don't want to come on here and say horrible things about people, but that's just my inference and what I'm picking up on. I would like to know what you all think. We've been through a plethora of child abductions and disappearances, and then horrible stories about children being treated monstrously. I was really hoping this would have a different ending. We, you know, in this area, in East Tennessee, you know, communities care about each other. We care about each other. So I was hoping it would have a different meaning, a different ending, and the community would really show the meaning of community and step up and find this young lady. And even though it's hills and hollers and creeks and pastures, you know, we're pretty handy in the woods, and we pretty much know our land, and we know where all the hidey holes are, and where all the, you know, all the bad spots on the land is, and where you can't take the tractor, where you can't get the four-wheeler, and where you better not walk, and where the rain runs different times a year. So we have a healthy knowledge. So for them to not have found anything at this point, it's very strange. As a native to this area, it's very strange. So that is my feedback on this event. I would love to hear everyone else's comments, opinions, and again, this is not meant to point out guilt or anything. This is just my opinions, my beliefs about the information that's being presented at this time, and how I feel about it, how my brain and my body is responding to the information. So, yeah, share below what you're vibing, what you're picking up on, and let's talk about it, because we need to talk about these things. The more we talk about it, the more we make it a topic of discussion, the more we educate parents, people, and kids, the less this will occur. Let's talk about it. Let's even talk about some topics that may be out there scarier or cloaked in shame. Let's talk about it, because it's only going to benefit everyone, if we put it out there and start discussing it. Start the discussion below, and I'll be there. Bye, y'all.